The Accidental Confession, a journey of betrayal, healing, and self-discovery. It was a crisp fall evening, the kind where the air had a slight chill and the leaves danced in the breeze, swirling in golden hues outside our window. Inside, the warmth of our home was intoxicating, as Lily and I sat at our kitchen table enjoying a simple dinner. The ambience was perfect, soft jazz playing in the background, the gentle clink of silverware against plates, and the familiar smell of Lily's famous roasted chicken filling the air. As we ate, I found myself once again appreciating how incredibly lucky I was. We had a beautiful life together. Lily, with her glowing smile, infectious laugh, and sense of adventure, was the heart and soul of our home. I, Henry, had everything I could ask for, a successful career, a loving wife, and a sense of stability I'd always longed for. Our life was a rhythm we both knew, with its share of routines and shared dreams. From the outside, we were the picture of marital bliss. Everyone envied us. But as I watched Lily laugh, my heart warmed at the thought of how much I loved her. I didn't know it yet, but tonight, everything I thought I knew about love and trust was about to change. We had just returned from a work event she'd attended, and as she started to recount the details of the evening, her voice sounded light, almost carefree. She mentioned seeing an old college friend, Mark, and talked about how it had been a pleasant surprise to reconnect with him after all these years. At first, it was a conversation that didn't raise any alarms. She had mentioned Mark before. After all, he was a good friend from university days, and I knew they'd always been close. It seemed innocent enough, and I was content to let her reminisce. But then, a shift in her tone caught my attention. The usual warmth in her voice started to fade, and I noticed the way her fingers absently traced the rim of her wine glass. She continued, her eyes looking down as though she were carefully choosing her next words. "You know, Mark was there for me during a tough time in my life," she said slowly, her words coming out in a quiet murmur. "He really understood me when no one else did." My curiosity piqued. I leaned forward, sensing that something more was on her mind. "What do you mean, a tough time?" "You've never mentioned this before," I asked, trying to keep my voice casual, though I could already feel the slight tension creeping in. Lily paused, her gaze falling to the table as though gathering the strength to speak. There was a hesitation in her eyes, something unspoken that I couldn't place. She fiddled with her wine glass again, and for the first time that night, I sensed something wasn't quite right. "Well, it was after we had some rough patches in our marriage," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were working long hours, and I was feeling really alone. I don't think either of us really knew what was going on at the time. I was lost, Henry. And Mark was there for me. He was a friend when I needed one." I nodded slowly, trying to keep my emotions in check. I hadn't realized things had gotten that bad for her. Of course, I'd been wrapped up in work, in my own world, but the thought that my wife had been feeling isolated and neglected shook me deeply. I wanted to say something comforting, something that would ease the tension I felt building in my chest, but the words didn't come. Lily went on, seemingly unaware of the storm brewing inside me. "Mark and I spent a lot of time talking during that period. And one night, I don't know what happened. I wasn't thinking clearly, and things went too far." My heart skipped a beat. My mind, which had been trying to absorb the words, now struggled to process them. A knot tightened in my stomach as the pieces began to fit together. The silence that followed was thick with tension. I had to know what she meant, but I was afraid of hearing the truth. "What do you mean by, things went too far, Lily?" I asked, my voice betraying the slight crack of panic that was creeping into my mind. Her eyes darted to mine, and in that moment, I saw the fear in them, the fear of the confession she was about to make. She took a shaky breath, her fingers trembling as they set her glass down. We slept together. One night, Mark and I were talking, and it just happened. It was a mistake, Henry. A huge mistake. I never thought it would come to that, but it did. I'm so sorry. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Time seemed to stand still as I sat there, frozen, trying to process what she had just said. My mind was swirling with 1,000 thoughts. How could this have happened? Why? Was everything we had built together a lie? Lily's face crumpled as she began to cry, her tears staining the tablecloth in front of her. I didn't mean to hurt you, Henry. I never wanted to cheat. I've carried this guilt with me for so long, and I don't know how to make it right. I never thought I'd have to tell you this. I thought I could bury it and move on, but I can't. I love you too much to keep this secret anymore. I looked at her, my chest aching, but I couldn't speak. My mind was too numb to form words. How could I have been so blind? How had I missed the signs? I had spent years thinking everything was perfect, believing our love was unshakable. And yet, here I was, facing the truth that everything I had believed in was built on a fragile foundation. I stood up, unable to sit still any longer. I needed space, time to think, to breathe. I couldn't process this in the moment, couldn't allow myself to react impulsively, despite the anger and hurt that were bubbling inside me. I need some time, Lily. I just need some time to think, I said, my voice steady but firm. I can't talk about this right now. She nodded, her face pale with regret, and I left the room without another word. The days that followed were filled with a haze of confusion, disbelief, and a deep ache I couldn't explain. Lily and I barely spoke, the weight of her confession hanging between us like a thick fog. I couldn't even look at her without feeling a sharp pang of betrayal. I replayed the conversation over and over in my head, trying to make sense of it all. The questions gnawed at me. How could she betray me like this? What went wrong in our marriage? Had I somehow missed the signs? And the guilt I felt for not being there for her, for not noticing her pain, began to overwhelm me. But amid the anger and hurt, a strange clarity began to emerge. I realized that the only way forward, for both of us, was through honesty. I couldn't let the pain fester and grow into something more destructive. And neither could Lily. So, I did something I never thought I would do. I reached out for help. I made an appointment with a therapist, hoping that somehow, through the guidance of someone else, I could find a way to navigate this painful chapter of my life. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I wanted to run away from it all, but slowly, I began to process my emotions, piece by piece. After a few weeks, I was ready to talk to Lily again. We sat down together, and for the first time since the confession, we had an open, honest conversation. She apologized again, but this time, there was no desperation in her voice, just raw vulnerability and guilt. She admitted that she had been emotionally distant, that she had allowed herself to be consumed by loneliness, and that she had made a terrible decision out of that pain. As hard as it was, I listened. I realized that I had been blind to the cracks in our relationship, that I had been so focused on my work and my own success that I had neglected her emotional needs. It wasn't an excuse for what she had done, but it was a reality that we both had to face. We both had a part to play in what had happened. Over the next few months, Lily and I worked tirelessly to rebuild our marriage. We attended therapy together, learning how to communicate better, how to express our emotions openly, and how to trust each other again. The journey wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, anger, and frustration, but there were also moments of growth, tenderness, and understanding. We weren't perfect, and our relationship was far from what it once was, but we were healing, one step at a time. As time passed, I began to realize that the pain of betrayal, while still present, no longer defined me. I had the power to choose how I responded to the situation. I could let the anger consume me, or I could use this experience as a catalyst for personal growth and healing. I chose healing. I chose forgiveness, not just for Lily, but for myself. Today, our marriage is different. It's not perfect, but it's real. We've learned to appreciate each other in ways we never did before, and we've built a foundation of trust that we both actively work to maintain. The scars of the past will always be there, but they are no longer a reminder of our failures, they are a testament to our resilience and our commitment to one another. Life has a way of throwing curveballs at us when we least expect it, especially in relationships. But no matter what challenges you face, remember this: you deserve honesty, respect, and love. Healing takes time, but it's always possible. If you found strength in this story, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below, like this video, and subscribe for more stories of growth, healing, and resilience. Always remember, you have the power to rise above the struggles and come out stronger on the other side.